I'm Tiffany Rosenbaum, and I'm the host of At Home Money. I help moms start their own dream side hustles and businesses, and one of the ways I do that is through sharing successful female led business stories like the one you're about to hear today. If you want to learn more about working with me or any of the guest speakers, please check out the links in the description. Let's meet today's guest, Jessica Enriquez from Sisterhood Social Co. Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. So, tell us a little bit about what your business is, what you do, and what is it? How did you come about your business?
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to talk about two of my businesses and kind of take it back to 2020. I just noticed that businesses in general needed more brand support. I noticed that there was a disconnect too sometimes when it came to marketing and people just kind of trying to throw out content or throw out their brand and not sure how to make it feel aligned. So I started a branding and design agency in 2020. I was able to quit my 9 to 5 as well at the end of 2020, which was awesome, and just go all in on it. And again, my biggest thing was connection. Even at that point, I really cared about connecting business owners, businesses, brands, right, with their people. At the end of the day, that's what our brand is about. It's not just about putting content out there, it's not just about the pretty design, it's about the connection that we're creating between the business, its mission, and their audience. So that was my first really main business. As time went on, again, this is post COVID now, and I'm working remote. So at this point, 5 years later, so 2025, yeah, about 2025 ish, a little bit before then. But I started feeling a disconnect myself because I was always on a laptop, always on a phone, always like behind a screen and not out in community. So started feeling anxiety, some mental health stuff coming up for me. And I'm like, okay, I need to go out and get more connection. And so I did a lot of things within as well, doing
Mhm.
therapy and all those things too. As time went on, I started thinking we need to have something here locally in Northwest Indiana that creates that connection, and started Sisterhood Social, which is a local nonprofit that is today, it's grown really, really big,
Yeah,
more than I could have ever imagined. And we're attracting hundreds of women to our events, and it's been really awesome. So that's my two businesses.
that's wonderful. So, what is the name of your branding business?
So expand brands.
Okay. Okay, cool. So we'll talk a little bit more in detail about both of them. But for Sisterhood Social, you said it's a nonprofit. So what kind of events do you guys do? I know you said like connecting, but what's your favorite event that you do, and what does it look like for you on your end and maybe those that are joining just to be on this end of it?
Yeah. So we do have our signature events. So we have a mini retreat style event, which is our typical monthly events that we have. It's 3 hours long. It's usually going to have some sort of connection activity, some sort of meditative activity, and some sort of movement or creative activity, kind of depends. But they're all going to be about personal
Okay.
growth. And we also have some quarterly festivals. Those are our larger ones, and those are 4 hours long and just are like a full shebang. And we also have retreats, day retreats and weekend retreats.
Do they focus just on businesses or other people as well?
Yeah, so Sisterhood Social is for every woman of all ages, of all backgrounds, not just
Okay.
business owners or entrepreneurs.
Great, great. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about your branding business. This, I'm guessing, is your way that you pay the bills since the other one is nonprofit.
Yeah, of course, as a nonprofit, you still make a salary. So I have moved more into Sisterhood Social since branding and design and doing both a nonprofit. It's a lot of work. But yes, Expand Brands was my main kind of business. We have moved more into consulting and
Hmm.
strategy. But yes, we kind of do more consulting and strategy. Does that answer your
Yeah,
question? I'm sorry, there was probably another part of
yeah.
that.
So does your branding company, do they work with just local brands or is it something that you can do, nationally?
Yeah, we worked with, because we're completely remote, we worked with businesses all over the world. One of my most exciting ones is we worked with a matcha bar in
Whoa.
Ireland, in Dublin, and they do amazing too, and their branding looks so good. So yeah, we worked with companies all over the
Do you
world.
do outreach to get to them or like do they come to you or is it a little bit of both?
No, I haven't done outreach. I pretty much was just kind of able to put myself out there on social media. And as time went on, it's became really referral based. So even now, since I put a huge focus on Sisterhood Social, we really are just working with referral based people and also with recurring
Yeah.
clients.
And is the same question for Sisterhood Social. Like I know that you pretty prevalent in the local area, but do you do events further out or, I mean it's obviously you're not on the computer with that as much, but what's that look like?
Yeah, that's the goal. So we have done a retreat in Michigan, which was really cool, and we attracted people from different states. We even had someone who drove down from New
Wow.
York, which was really awesome. Yeah, and so the goal is to keep expanding beyond
Mhm.
Northwest Indiana. So our next goal in doing this is going to Chicago. I'll hopefully be moving there in the next couple months, so we'll be opening a chapter in Chicago, and we also hope to do retreats, not just nationally, but also like globally too. So that's the goal, but that's going to take about a year or so to get there.
Hey, I mean, I think to go nationally, a year is a quick timeline. I mean, to me, but I think you could do
Yeah.
it.
Well, I'm saying in terms of retreats, in terms of
Yeah.
retreats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had said opening a chapter. What exactly is a chapter?
Yeah, so we have a chapter here in Northwest Indiana that's kind of like our main space right now. So we'll stay in Northwest Indiana. We'll have a chapter here in Northwest Indiana, and soon we'll have a chapter in Chicago. So that will have its own events and kind of have its own community, so to say, right? Because I don't want to stop having events here in Northwest Indiana. I don't want to stop any of that. I want to keep what we have and keep the community we have here and open new chapters.
Sisterhood Social, I'm just trying to understand the layout of it all. So it's like your baby, you created it. So do you like find somebody to lead the other chapter?
I'm gonna be living in
Oh,
Chicago, so I would be leading Chicago. Yes, that we may be having someone leading Northwest Indiana while I'm in Chicago. I'm currently working on systems, processes, and just like building out our team right now. We are a small team of 4 gals, but I'm just really working on building that up so we have something that is effective and working so that I can focus on Chicago when I move there and we can have someone who can kind of sort of be the face of the Northwest Indiana.
that makes sense. Well, that would kind of led into one of the other questions I was going to ask was, do you have any employees? So you said you're a team of 4 for Sisterhood Social?
Yeah. So we have myself, of course. So we have an operations lead. So that has been my virtual assistant for years and years. And we kind of promoted her to operations lead. She does a lot of the back end system stuff. And we have a social media assistant, marketing assistant, I should say. She does a little bit of everything. And we also have an event on-site assistant as well. So she helps on event day, making sure everything goes good. And we just put out an offer letter for a partnerships assistant. So someone who's going to be putting out, email outreach,
Mhm.
reaching out to partners that potentially might want to partner with us for events, things like that.
That's awesome. So I don't know too much about non for profits other than that they don't take a profit. But what led to your decision when you were creating Sisterhood Social to go the nonprofit route versus the traditional profit route?
So, nonprofits to me, the big thing is like making sure there is a mission behind it, right? Like you're not just here to make
Mhm.
a ton of money, right? There has to be a mission behind what you're doing. And so for me, building a community that's accessible and inclusive is extremely
Mhm.
important. I don't want to go into the luxury events business. I mean, there are events that charge usually 75 to $100 sometimes, right? We don't want to go into
Mhm.
that route. We want to make sure that this is extremely accessible to people. And also, if you cannot afford it, all you have to do is just fill out a sponsorship application and we will send you a sponsor ticket. So, usually our events are about $35 per event. So, that's a pretty accessible price for everything that we offer. And another part of it is we're not just events, we're not just networking, we really are supporting women to go deeper and for
Yeah.
personal growth. And just being in community in general is going to support your mental health. So we really focus on that rather than just being like a dinner hangout or like a networking hangout, right? We really want to go deeper. And there's another side of it too that I didn't mention is Social Savvy, which is our entrepreneurial initiative to support women in growing their businesses, growing their dreams, and that is completely free as well
Okay,
too.
so the Social Savvy, is that nonprofit too?
So that's an initiative
Okay,
under Sisterhood
I
Social.
understand. I understand now.
Yeah.
I got all the pieces now in my head.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you're
Yeah.
really, really busy. Do you have any employees for your branding?
So I have my VA who's been with me for years. And I also will do project basis contractors. So basically, based on projects, if I need a contractor, I'll hire them out. But no, I don't have any like full time employees or anything under my branding and design business, especially now that we have taken some time, or I should say, taken some space away from it and focus more on Sisterhood Social. I do hire people more on an on project basis.
Makes sense. So,
Yeah.
when you were first starting your business, what were some, well, any of them, honestly, since you've got a lot like me, but what were your biggest challenges?
That's a really good question. I'm sure I could pull out a ton, but I can't think of any at the top of my head. I think I'm going to relate it back to mindset. I feel like any entrepreneur can agree with that is you realize that how much of entrepreneurship is about your
Mhm.
mindset. It is about the way you think, the way you feel, the way you're showing up. If you're not willing to put in the time and effort and work into your mindset, it's going to be really hard to grow your business and it's going to show up in your business. So to me, that was the challenge, but I loved that challenge because I love all things like personal growth, inner wellness, and just like really doing the healing work that's
Mhm.
hard. So it was a good challenge that really helped me grow a lot.
Yeah, I could totally see that. You're absolutely right. It is one of the most important things to have in business. For
Yeah.
your businesses, and probably more so your branding one, more so than the other two, but those as well. But how long did it take you once you were first starting before you started seeing like a regular, consistent income?
So for my branding business, I would say it took me about 6 to 12
Mhm.
months. Now I will say prior to that, I did photography and I like it took time to really learn business
Mhm.
too. So even with the 6 to 12 months, it's like there was also a year and a half before that where I was a photography business and I was learning all things about branding and business and
Yeah.
all the things, right? Sales. So, yeah, and I would say for my nonprofit too, same thing between 6 to 12
Mhm.
months.
That's pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were doing like looking back on all of the years that you were learning and everything, and you could do one thing differently that would maybe accelerate your growth or just change things, what would you do differently?
Couple things. So, if I really go back to the starting days, I think what I would do differently is starting to build my network, starting to connect with people right away, putting myself out there without the fear of rejection, because I think the fear of rejection really stops us from going for the biggest opportunities. And yeah, just already like kind of encouraging myself to think big, like not letting myself think like, oh, I can't do that yet or I'm too small. So, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of thinking big, what are your like what is your biggest vision for your companies? How big can you see yourself going or how big do you want to go?
So yeah, so with branding and design, I want to keep that as is, kind of like back end consulting. We're keeping that as is because Sisterhood Social has just grown so much. So again, don't want to get rid of the branding and design. I don't want to get rid of the consulting, but I do want to keep that there so that I can really focus on growing Sisterhood Social to its biggest possibility. And the really, really big vision is, like I said, like going to different cities, hosting global retreats, right? Hosting a retreat in like Spain or Italy, Mexico, just crazy places. And then having chapters pop up, like I said, in Chicago, maybe in other big cities like in Arizona or California or Florida, right? So just going to different places that to me would be my big vision is just seeing this grow throughout the US.
Yeah, that's a very lovely vision. I like it.
Yeah.
Um, what was your big like your first big win in your business?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my branding and design business. So for that, well, I'll give actually one for both. For that, my biggest win was being able to make. I'm just gonna do talk about money, even though that's kind of scary to talk about.
Let's talk
Sometimes
about it.
people are like, "Oh," but yeah, I'm gonna talk about it. We're talking about business. My biggest win was being able to make 40,000 in revenue in a
Wow.
month. I think that was like my biggest like win. That was like, wait, I never knew that I could actually do this. Being able to sell like $10,000 packages was like absolutely amazing. And then for Sisterhood Social side, my biggest win on that was the amount of people who are actually interested in this. I remember like first starting and just like being so nervous, like, are people actually going to want to come to this? What if no one shows up? And then having an event, our most recent one in January, that was the biggest. We had 280 spots sold. And even that, I was like trying to cut it off at 250, but we had so many people interested and we had 100 people on the
Wow.
wait list. So I think that was like just so crazy to me. Like people are actually wanting to come. I still have to pinch
Yeah,
myself.
that's wonderful. So you said your first Sisterhood social event was that in 2025?
My first Sisterhood social event was technically the end of 2024. Wait, yeah, we're in 2020. Yeah, end of 2024. So 2025, I would say, is when we started to like get a bit more bigger. But yeah, end of 2024 was when I had my very first
Yeah.
one.
So what did those first events look like? I'm sure, as anybody they grow over time, but what did the first ones look like? Were they a hot mess or were they good? Did you sell out those
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah. Those did get actually sold out. They were a bit of a mess. They were a bit of a mess. And then I always say, like, do messy action, see how it goes, and you just continue to refine. And that's what I did. So, yeah, like, I remember our very first one was like a walk, and we had walked through this path, and some girls had brought strollers. So they were like struggling to get through. It was just such a mess. We had to pivot and like just go back, and the walk wasn't very long, and we all just sat on the grass and had a picnic and we hanged out, and that ended up being our event. And it was a free event. It was my first event. Most of the people there were friends. I remember our second event was a paint and sip, and I had brought like stencils, so there was no one like necessarily like that was a painter
Hmm.
that was like showing steps. I brought stencils, but the stencils were bleeding through, and like the girls like had like these really like messy paintings. It was such a mess, but people still had a good time. Again, I learned now just this past week we had a painting experience, but with an art therapist. We did art therapy with a meditation, completely different experience. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
How did you market your first events? Like when you were first having your events?
social media. Social media was pretty much everything. Started a Instagram for Sisterhood Social and put it out on Facebook as well. TikTok, that I think as time went on, I started using TikTok, and that was a huge game changer
Yeah.
too.
So, I mean, were people finding you? Like, they didn't have a problem finding you locally on TikTok?
TikTok helps a lot with the algorithm. Yeah, like so if you tag like Northwest Indiana or tag like what location you're at, it will help to target people who are local in your area. So that helped a lot with getting traffic. And I would say in terms of like Instagram, Facebook, like what really helps with visibility on that was people
Yeah.
sharing. So if people shared about it, reposted it, that helped a lot with getting more
Yeah, that makes
eyes.
sense. Did you create like Facebook events or were you just like posting it about it from your Sisterhood social page?
Both. So I did Facebook events and the Sisterhood social page. So even I think when you do Facebook events, when someone presses that they're interested or
Hmm.
going, it will show to their all their
Yeah.
Facebook friends too. So that's nice for
Yeah, that
visibility.
makes a whole lot of sense. You mentioned earlier that networking was really important, but how exactly would you say that networking has helped your business?
Man, I mean, even with like branding and design, so I would get hired to go to retreats and like speak about branding. And even then, like just networking with all the girls there, connecting with all the girls there, like was just so worth it. And it's not even just about making a sale, it was just about meeting other people who were in the same boat or needed support with something, and I was able to support them somehow. And so now, like with Sisterhood Social, kind of taking it to that, I mean, I feel like I have a community here. Like if I need charcuterie, I know who to
Hmm.
go to. If I need a sound bath, I know who to go to. If I need marketing support, I know who to go to. Like I just feel like the people, and that to me is like currency. Like it really is
Yeah.
currency. Like you need to nurture the people that are in your life and support them, and vice versa, right? Like that will also come back to you. So
What is one business tool? I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be one, but your best business tools that you can't live without.
like in terms of systems or in terms of like mindset stuff or
It could
both?
be any, like softwares, systems, books, just something that was just like,
Okay. Okay.
I need this. It helps me. My life would be 10 times harder without it.
Yeah. I would say Notion is one of my favorite things right now. Notion, Dubsado used to be my favorite thing. I used to use Microsoft for everything, Microsoft Teams, but I recently changed that since I've been focusing more on the nonprofit. So, yeah, I really like Notion. That's one
Hmm.
of my favorite. To be organized. I'm building out just a lot of my team systems and processes on there too, which is great. And it has automations too that you can build in. I do want to say, like, on a mindset or like a little bit woo side of things, I don't know if woo's the right word, but I would say somatic work has been such a huge game changer for me too, because as an entrepreneur, again, like if our mindset isn't right, if we are stuck in the constant overthinking, if our nervous system is overloaded all the time, we are not going to be able to expand our capacity to hold more, to do more, to support more, whatever it is that we're trying to call in more of. So that's the other hack or tool I feel like I really love is like somatic work, getting in my body, and
Yeah,
yeah.
those are definitely really important things. I've never
Hmm.
used Notion, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it lately. So that's probably my cue to check it out.
I love it. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how running your business looks like with your day to day family life.
I will say, I feel like in the first year of business, it's not going to be balanced. That is something that I've learned. Like the first year of my branding and design, like it was not balanced. The first year of my nonprofit, and I'm still starting to like get out of it, not
Hmm.
balanced. It's not balanced. So, but after you kind of go through those trenches, like I feel like it gets to look more balanced as you start to outsource, you start to have systems in place. And yeah, so I mean, I try to reserve like Fridays and Saturdays with my family, well, my husband, and my niece is a huge part of my life as well. And making sure I go on the trips that I want to go on, planning the fun date nights, things like that. It's important to me as
Yeah.
well.
That's yeah, I mean, balance is the term that it's there needs to be a better term for it, but I feel like maybe manage how do you
Hmm.
manage it? Like balance is never going to happen, so you just got to manage it, right? Or prioritize it or
Yeah,
there definitely needs to be a bigger word, but
for sure.
what is the best advice that a mentor has ever given you?
Okay. This actually goes back to my corporate job, right around when I was starting my photography business. And I remember my boss saying, the problem isn't failing. Don't worry to fail. The problem is like not letting yourself fail in a way. Like, I want to fail
Mhm.
fast. That was kind of like what he was saying. Like, if we're going to fail, just fail fast. Like, let's just get it over with. Let's just fail and hurry it up. And at that time, I have an accounting background, but I was trying to get in on their automations and stuff. And this was like back when like AI wasn't even a thing. Like no one was really talking about automation. So I had no clue what I was doing. So he was kind of like pep talking me into just like reminding myself, like, just do it, but like let yourself fail, but
Yeah.
like do it fast because we don't
Mhm.
have time to waste. And to me, that was a huge reminder, even to now as a business owner. And even when I'm thinking about like, contractors that I have or the team that I have, that like, it's okay if we fail. It's okay if we make a mistake. Let's just let's just do it, right? Let's just make that failure and we will do better next time, right? Let's not sit in the worry of potentially making a mistake or failing because we're spending more time in just waiting than just like letting it happen and just learning
Yeah,
from it.
we learn from mistakes more than we learn from any assumed perfection. What made you decide to step away from your photography business? I also had my first business was a photography business too. So,
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I love that. So I think it was always the dream to step away from it. So when we really go back, when I had first initially thought about starting a business, I remember I've always loved like taking photos. I've always loved designing. I've always loved like marketing based kind of things. I used to do journalism in high school. I was like the lead publication something. I don't even remember what it was called. And then came college, I ended up going into accounting because I took an accounting class and I was good at it. And then I got into the corporate profession and ended up just realizing that like there's so much more to life and this was it. Like I was like this is it. Like I just worked so hard for 4 years and like went to school my whole life and like there's nothing else. And so I always was like posting on Instagram. I had a blog, I had a YouTube, and I was like I want to do something. Let me pick the lowest hanging fruit from the tree. What is like the fastest thing I could start? And I also had an MBA on my to-do list too, but I looked at the MBA and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go back to school. Like, let me just put a bet on this business idea and just see what happens. And so I remember going back to my house that one day that I just like made the decision. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I had like mapped out like all the things that I want to do. And it was photography, branding, design, strategy, and
mhm.
consulting. So I kind of mapped it all out and I'm like, I want to do all these things, but it's like I can't get there like in one day. So let's just start with one. What is the lowest hanging fruit from the tree? And that was photography. I could do that in my local community. I knew people already who might be interested, friends, family. I knew a lot about photography too because I had learned that from journalism and did really good in photo. I knew how to work a camera. Just need to buy a camera. That's all I need to do. So, yeah, just went on Facebook Marketplace, bought a camera, and the next week I was already like going out there and asking people if they wanted a photo shoot on Facebook. So, yeah, that's what made me kind of decide
But
to
what
do it.
made you decide that you didn't want to do it? Like for me, for example, like I loved
Oh,
taking pictures. I hated the other end of it, like doing it
yeah.
professionally, whereas like I loved being behind the camera, the art of it. But when people were like hounding you and you've got like 3,000 wedding pictures and they want the album by like tomorrow, I hated that part of it. And I was like, no, I want to still be in love
Yeah.
with it. But if I'm doing it professionally, it's going to take the love out of it. So,
I totally forgot. Yes, absolutely to that too. I knew I didn't want to do weddings either. Like, yeah, I did one or two of them and I was like, I know I don't want to do this. I'm just doing it for the person. But yeah, so going back to the story of like, I had already mapped out, like, I'm going to do photography, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, branding and design. So I think when I had already done photography for over a year, I was kind of like, okay, it's time to step into branding and design. I really want to do a bit more. I started doing a lot more entrepreneur events too and doing a lot of branding shoots. And then naturally, the next step was to get certified in branding and brand strategy. And so I did. And it was like, okay, it's time to step into that and see how it goes. I was still doing
mhm.
photography at first, but branding and design was just doing so well once I kicked that off that it was like, okay, let's let go of
Yeah.
photography.
Did you have to go back to school to get certified for the branding?
No, so I just did an online course that got me certified for brand
Okay. Well,
strategy.
that's simple enough.
Yeah. Which I recommend for anyone, like, not that I'm against school or anything, but there's usually probably a certification you can find or a mastermind or something that you can find that can teach you rather than going back to
Yeah, there's
school.
so much out there, like just online. If you want to learn
Yeah.
something, you don't have to go to school for it. So
Yeah.
that's our generation gets
Yeah.
to enjoy that quick perk. What does a typical workday look like for you?
It's always different, especially now with Sisterhood Social. It's always different because I have to do venue scouting, walkthroughs, like go in person. I have sponsorship calls, um, calls with my team. Then I have to like get in my email inbox and do a lot of outreach or do social media stuff. So it's always really different. Some days I start working early, some days I start working at noon. It really just depends on how I feel. But what I will say is like I have my call days. I don't start until 12. So today is like a call day, for example. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are my call days. Fridays are when I try to step out of the house and like do any venue outreach, anything like that. And Mondays or Wednesdays are kind of like working in the business type of days. So it varies and it depends kind of how it goes. But one big thing is, like I said, I always like to start work later versus like early in the
Yeah.
day.
When you're doing your outreach for Sisterhood Social, is that like just trying to get more word out about it? Is it more of a like, hey, let's get potential vendors or potential locations? What type of outreach do you do?
Yeah, for sponsors, vendors, and venues is usually the outreach that we do.
Okay. What is the, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it's fully a transition since you do still have your branding, but what, like, how has it been different, or what's the change been like to go from, where you're focusing on branding and making, like you said, $40,000 a month to running a nonprofit and having like a salary?
It was a difference. It was a difference. It definitely at first was scary for my nervous system because it was so easy to make $3,000 package, like even that, right? For one client. Um, and I did have to take time and energy away from that type of work in order to build Sisterhood
Hmm.
Social. So financially, at first, it was
Yeah.
scary. It was like, oh my gosh, is this going to work? Because at first, too, and anybody knows this with starting a business, is you're going to spend more money than you make, and you don't want to go too far down that
Hmm.
hole, right? And I'm big on numbers because I have an accounting background. So seeing anything that's like, oh my gosh, was like a red flag to me. But the work ended up working. And to me, I feel like now it's like completely fine and we've worked it out. And I'm still able to have the consulting side of things. I'm still having, clients
Hmm.
come through on top of my salary. Yeah, so it feels stable
Yeah.
now.
For just listeners who might be thinking about making a nonprofit, were you able to take a salary that first year? Because I know the first year in business is always the toughest, or was it something it just kind of happened naturally?
I would say the first 6 months I did not take a salary. After the 6 months, yes. So by like May, June, I was able to start of last year, I was able to start taking a salary. I also got a grant too for social savvy, which was also another part of a salary as well. So yeah, I after 6 months I was, but it was a lot of work
Oh
to get to
yeah.
that point. I mean, there was days, you're working and you're like, I'm not making anything for yourself, right? And at the end of the day, something that I learned, this goes for anybody who's thinking about doing a nonprofit, you need to make a salary. Like you can't have a nonprofit and just do that and then like not let yourself have a salary because you are investing in this mission and we need the owner to or the leader I should say to not get
Hmm.
burnt out. And if I would have kept not paying myself right after those 6 months and I would have kept going that route, I would have gotten
Yeah.
burnt out and be like, what am I doing this for?
Hmm.
Right. We have to pay our bills. We have to take care of ourselves. So yeah, I think with nonprofits too, there can be that thought that of like, oh, like nonprofit owners or whatever shouldn't take a salary or don't take a salary, but they definitely need
Yeah.
to.
I mean, I can't imagine running a business and not, ever getting paid for it, because I feel like, at some point resentment for the business grows in. Like you said, like
Yeah,
that's just how businesses fail, is if you can't get past that mindset. And I feel like it'd be very easy to develop a negative mindset on a business that you're not necessarily seeing, returns for. Or it could be like, your family. They're like, this is always taking you away from us. I'm not getting anything out of it. So I'm glad that you take a salary. And like I
exactly.
said, I never really knew too much before about how nonprofits really worked, especially on the small business side. You always hear about like big nonprofits.
Yeah.
So,
Big nonprofits definitely take their
Yeah,
salary.
Goodwill.
Yeah, they definitely take their salary. So that's why it's like, we can't feel bad about it either. We're not doing it in a greedy way. We're just paying our
Yeah.
bills.
What does a nonprofit look like on like the tax end of things?
I'll figure that out this year. Because last year for tax, I mean, we really didn't make or have much expenses because we really had just like free, like super low dollar events for the year before
Yeah.
that. So like in 2024, we started in November. So we only had like two events. One of them was free. The other one was like $25 and we had some expenses that took that over, right? So there really wasn't much to report when it came
Yeah.
to last year's taxes for Sisterhood Social. So this year I still have my tax accountant in my email and I have so much to send to her. So I don't know. We'll figure that out. But I do know that it is really important. Luckily, since I have an accounting background, I know how to like, keep my books and stuff. And we do also have to have a board.
Yeah.
That's a huge, huge important thing. Something we're spending more time on this year as well is having a board. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can tell you
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I was kind of asking that question more on like your accountant side because are there any like special tax breaks or tax deductions you get for being a nonprofit, or is it run the same?
Yeah. Yeah, so I know one is like sales tax, for example. So like even with buying from like let's say we rent a venue, right, and they have sales tax. So we don't have to pay that sales tax. We can give them a form that shows them like, hey, I don't know what the word is, but
501(c)(3)?
yeah, so we are 501(c)(3), but there's like a word for that form too, but I don't know what it is. But yes, it's tax
Yeah.
exempt from sales tax. Same thing with things that we sell, so like ticket sales is tax exempt. Don't quote me on anything though. I'm not a legal professional. And I'm not a
I will.
CPA. And then what's the other thing? Those are the main ones I know. And there's obviously a benefit too when someone donates to you. So if someone donates something in kind to you, like some sort
Yeah.
of product, you're able to send them a acknowledgement letter. If someone donates monetary support, obviously you can send them an acknowledgement letter. So yeah, those are kind of the
Yeah.
things.
So, what does it look like? What was the process of creating a nonprofit versus like the creation of an LLC or like a sole proprietorship? How is that different other than having to have the board?
I think the difference is, and it's something that I'm working on. Are you talking about like the legal forms and
Yeah, like
stuff,
is it
or you're talking about just the
oh, no, not
mindset of it?
necessarily the mindset, but like the process. Like, is it harder to do? Does it take longer to create a nonprofit? Are there extra steps? What is it like? Are there specific
I
rules and
see.
regulations for the board? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I do think with a nonprofit, you have to be a lot more careful about things because you can lose your nonprofit status. So for me, because we are a smaller nonprofit, we're not like a huge one, like you said, like Goodwill, right? We applied for the 501(c)(3) easy. So that's an easier
Okay.
process. That's for smaller nonprofits. I do think if you go with the full 501(c)(3) process, it's a lot more work. You have to have a lawyer involved even. Yeah, with an LLC, it's easy. You could literally like get that in
Yeah,
like one day,
it's
I
pretty
think.
easy.
Like I don't even think there's really an approval system. So yeah, with the 501(c)(3) too, like you don't get approved right away. You have to wait, I think like 4 to 6 weeks for the easy process. And I think for the 501(c)(3) normal process, I think it can take up to like
Hmm.
months. So definitely takes more time. And you definitely, like I said, just want to be careful when it comes to your taxes and anything that you're doing. Like you don't want to mess that up.
Yeah. When you were, since you are a nonprofit and you're like doing your venue searches and in the first year or so, were you able to get like discounted venues because you're a nonprofit, or is it just discounted in the fact that you don't have to pay sales tax?
Yes and no. So yeah, I mean, I pitch partnerships and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. So that's good. We're almost done here. I don't
Yeah.
want to take too much more of your time, but just a few more questions. I know you said you're like really big into the mindset and the business stuff. So, what is like either a book or a training or a course or anything that you've taken that you're like, this is just awesome. I love it. I learned so much. You need to do this.
Man, oh man. I don't have any books off the top of my head because I'm not a huge reader. I'm the type of person who will start a book and do a couple pages and I just can't stay focused for the rest of it. So actually, for me, it's going to be a bit more experiential. And my recommendation is to go out and just experience, like go out and go to the events, go to somatic, if you can. Somatic therapy is huge, breath work. I have a recommendation for people locally, which is one of my friends too. Her name's Carla Michelle. She does breath work, she does somatic movement. I also recommend on like a
Mhm.
virtual level, Arika Valan, I think is how you say her name. And on a somatic therapy level, I recommend Embodied Mind Collective. Those are all kind of like resources that I feel like have really helped me because I'm just an experiential type of person. That's the best way I
Yeah,
learn.
that's good too.
Okay.
Well, I don't have anything else for you today. I don't want to take more of your time, but thank you so much for being on. And if you have any links or anything to your socials or your websites that you want me to include in the description, or even upcoming retreats or events, I can link those as well so everybody can check those out. And I will let you go on with the rest of your day. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yes, at sisterhoodsocial.co. That's the place to find Sisterhood Social. And yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity to be.
It was really fun to talk with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you
You
again
have a
for
good
everything.
one.